Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. You know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things to help the YouTube algorithm. And I know some people use this as an excuse to say, this is why I'm not doing it because you're asking, and I totally understand. I'm generally contrarian as well. But we have to ask, or else the numbers go down even worse. And with that said, let's get started on this build. It's one I talked about in the big wrap-up video. It's Duelists, but this is where we start with some meh things, which I'll go ahead and re-roll. With this, again, nothing great, but Axiom Arc can work, because then at least with Duelist, you're going to be killing fast, which means you're going to be getting mana back quicker. I already had a Gangplank and a Kale, and I had the makings of a Locket. So I knew I kind of had the elements I wanted, but it was throwing blitzes at me like they were going out of style. So I felt it might be good to bring in a blitz at the beginning, at least to be a strong part of the front line. And of course, the first thing I run into is someone also running a Duelist build who happens to have their Nyla already. And I'm saving that Locket for Nyla once I can get her. But luckily, I have some 2 stars and I'm able to get through this person. Since at this point I've decided on Duelist, I decide to go ahead and put the Locket on Blitzcrank until I can get to my Nyla. The ultimate success or failure of this build will come later on when we start seeing whether we're able to roll the higher level champions, because this will be make or break on Twisted Fate and Vayne. Those are usually your carries here, with Nyla just serving as something to hold up the front line. I like to bring Annie into this build for 2 reasons. She creates Ox Force with Fiora, so they will last a little bit longer. And also she'll ultimately create Spellslinger along with Twisted Fate. So it's a good thing to have her in this type of build if you're going to do it. For item choice, I'm hoping for a needlessly large rod, because you're really going to need a lot of them to do this, because you want to create a couple of Lockets for Nyla, and then you also want some AP items for Twisted Fate. But it wasn't there, so I go ahead and go with the sword. And I'll speed this one up a little bit more, because this is not working the way generally a Duelist comp works. Usually you can get through opposing teams really quickly. That's the whole concept with the Duelists, is they just tear through them. But instead, it's kind of turned into a little bit of a tank team right now, especially with that Blitzcrank in the middle, but we are surviving. It's time for our second augment, and we have Prismatic level. Now, we can't roll it because we rolled the first one, so at this point, we're going to go with high-end shopping and hope that we can get our 3 and 4 costs a little bit earlier so we can get a jump on everyone else. But we found our Nyla, so we now have our 4 Duelists and 2 Ox Force, which is how I like to get this started. Now with Nyla at 1 star, I'm not expecting great things yet, because that shield isn't going to be all that high. Fiora is still also 1 star, as well as Annie, so we don't have a lot holding us up, and a team with a lot of power like this is going to be able to get through us. And I can't stress enough how hard it is to do this without Gary, because I am not getting the needlessly large rods I'm looking for. I want them for Rageblades on Twisted Fate, I want them for a second Locket, but they're not giving them to me right now. And unfortunately, right now, this team does not have the power. We did get the 2-star Nyla, so we have a bigger shield, but I'd like to have 2 Lockets on her. I'd also like to have more power coming out of the back lane, but we just don't have it. Twisted Fate has not shown up yet, so we're struggling a little bit at this moment. Now, even though things are not looking good, there is a bright spot. We've locked for our Twisted Fate, so we're going to be able to get up to the 6th Duelist. And as I mentioned in the big wrap-up video, Duelists now take reduced damage when they get to 6, so this team will become tankier in the next set of fights. Now we are down to our final augment, and it is a hero augment. Now, Gifted could work, but we need backline power here, and we still haven't gotten needlessly large rods. So It's time to go with Vayne and take spread shot, which means Vayne's going to attack additional targets. We're gonna have to put some items out in places just so we can pick up what we have. We finally get the needlessly large rod, which we are now going to use to create Twisted Fate items more so than other things. I would have liked to have had the locket, but getting really good items on Twisted Fate is going to be important since he can carry these matches. And you can see the impact of some items instantly. Twisted Fate is going to be able to do a ton of damage, picking up, helping to keep the team healed, which again is also taking reduced damage because 6 duelists take 10% reduced damage. We're going to be able to get through this team and stop the horrible lose streak. This is also where we see Axiom Arc start to pay off really well. Twisted Fate does tons of damage with his ult, and he's getting 30 mana back every time he gets a kill, which means he's casting really often, and you can see it's leading to a lot of damage, but Vayne is leading the damage charts. We have an item choice, and for this one, it's easy for me, which is Bluebuff on Vayne. Because of Axiom Arc and Vayne doing spread shot, we'll get a lot more damage out of her. Notice I've also picked up a Fiddlesticks and placed it right in front of Vayne and Twisted Fate. That's because if they get through the front line, they're then going to have to deal with Fiddlesticks before they're able to take out the real damage centers of my team. I'm also picking up a lot of Vayne, so I have the hope that I can get her up to gold 3 stars. And you will see exactly why that fiddle is placed where it is right here and why the Duelist team starts to work at this point. They got a lot of attack in, but Fiddle goes in and stops everyone from attacking, allowing Twisted Fate to just finish them all off. When you run Duelist, your real goal is that you want the match to be shorter. You want it over in 15 to 20 seconds because after that they get through your front line and your back line is really squishy. So right here you can see we get it in about 20 seconds and we're on track to do what we need to do. Now while I consider Fiddlesticks important, I like to bring in either Nunu or Urgot in order to mess with their backline, and then just for the moment, there's our gold 3-star Vayne with the Deathblade, Giant Slayer, and Bluebuff. She is going to be able to do tons of damage going forward. And we have our final 2 item choices. The Hextech Gunblade will be a great addition for Twisted Fate, who's really acting more as a support at this point to help keep Vayne alive. Then we can go ahead and grab the Archangel Staff, which can either go on Fiddlesticks or on Nunu. Since Nunu's up at 2 stars, we'll go ahead and put it there, but it could also go on Fiddlesticks because Fiddlesticks is going to hang back and then just gain power. And the nice thing about seeing the board in this spread is you know you're pretty much guaranteed into the top 4 because I can't get knocked out this round, but everyone else is battling, and so a couple of people are going to go and there's only 5 left. But this team now is really, really strong, and you can see Vayne is able to finish them off and crush the damage charts. And this will lead us, of course, into the top 4. So I took a chance and moved Vayne over to the right corner, hoping Nunu would run interference for her. It actually works out pretty well. Vayne is doing a ridiculous amount of damage thanks to the Axiom Arc and the Bluebuff, because it's just nearly a constant ult which is hitting 3 people total and is a percentage of her attack damage. And you will see in a moment just how effective it is. Over 20,000 damage, most of it true damage, about 16,000 alone in true damage. And it's now down to a 1v1. We go ahead and check in on the other player, who is running a Rift Walker mascot team, which is also a very strong build. I decide to use Fiddlesticks a little bit more as a protector for Vayne and Twisted Fate in the hopes that no one's going to be able to get to them in time to do any real damage that will take them out. The point is that once my Fiddlesticks jumps, it will hold things back long enough for Vayne and Twisted Fate to do what they need to do. Twisted Fate exists to keep Vayne healed. Vayne exists to destroy. And she does her job really well as she takes it out with just a little bit of health left, and GG for everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give Duelist a try. It's a little risky, but it's a lot of fun when it works. And as always, have an absolutely, absolutely awesome day.